Okay.
How do you feel about playing Tyrone on Sunday, and how do you think Derry will do?
Oh, interesting question. We've played them so many times last year, and obviously earlier this year in the McKenna Cup. They're a Division 1 team. We got relegated, unfortunately, to Division 3, so quite obviously we know each other very well, and they're a very good side. Championship's all in the day, so I mean I'm hoping that our guys turn up and put in a performance.
What are your ambitions for this season?
My ambitions were to stay in Division 2, Barry, but now we haven't got that. But obviously we need to win matches because winning games breeds confidence, and I think that within our supporters as well, we'd like to win and do well in the championship for our supporters. We did reasonably well last year in the qualifiers, should have made the last 8, but obviously our expectation is whatever way we go, whether it's through the Ulster Championship or whether it's the back door, we'd like to emulate what we did last year.
Why do you think that Derry club players do not commit to their county?
I wish I knew, Barry. It's a very difficult one. I think again that if you have a group of players and you've brought them through from minor maybe into under 21 with success together, they're more likely to stay together, and we haven't had that for a period of time. Derry clubs are very, very strong. There's pressure on the clubs to perform. They all, I mean, in Derry and Tyrone's the same. I think there's 5 or 6 that believe they can win a championship any year. So, and players haven't got the patience. I mean, if they're not making the first 15, they tend to drift away rather easily. So, and maybe they've other commitments. I mean, maybe they're putting their family and their work first. It is a big commitment at the end of the day, but it's something that in Derry we have to address and try and make county football more attractive.
Did you always want to be a manager from a young age?
I'm not sure. I think I fell into it a wee bit after I finished playing. I started managing Ballinderry, ironically, and who used to be great rivals of my home club. But I think at the end of the day, whenever you spend so much time in a sport and, if you like, in a setting, that's where you meet people, and I've met some fantastic people and acquaintances, and it's a fantastic environment to be in because it's a very competitive environment, and as I say, it's a great social environment as well. And you know, no matter what happens, whether it's in club football or county football, I think it's great that supporters can mix with each other, and even players talk to each other after games. So it was a natural progression that I wanted to stay involved in football after playing.
So, who is your home club then? And if you're between you and Ballinderry, which team would you support?
Oh, no, that's a very interesting question. My home club is Newbridge, which is in South Derry, obviously, and it obviously because it's where I came from, where I grew up. Newbridge had a great tradition in football, very, very successful. My father played for Newbridge, brothers played for Newbridge, we played right through, and we always had great role models because there were Gribbons, as a group of 5 brothers, for example, played for the club but also played for the county, all at the same time. So I definitely would have a great affinity still with Newbridge.
What advice would you give to someone who is thinking of going into management?
That's probably the most difficult question you have asked me, Barry, because I had a perception that you can get all this help from all these people, including clubs and including physios and dietitians and you name it, psychologists, and sometimes it doesn't work out that way. I mean, I've said on record that this is the toughest thing I've ever done because of all the challenges. It very much depends. Do I like it? I consider, because it's my own county, a great honour, and I think it's a great privilege, and whether we win or lose, I still think that I have been honoured to be in this position. So I would say to anyone, if you have an opportunity, take it.
How was it that you became the manager of Derry?
Because nobody else wanted it. Well, there were a few people wanted it, but Really and truly, I felt that I had an opportunity a few years ago, maybe 9, 10 years ago, whenever I was much younger. But the opportunity just didn't work out. So it was something I always wanted to do. I knew I was going in a very difficult time because there's a lot of players moving on and some players coming in, and people talk about transition. So I knew at the end of the day that again it was something I wanted to do, and but it's a very difficult thing, and it just takes over, just absolutely takes over all of your life, all of your family life, and maybe that's what it demands.
Okay. Do you feel that you took any qualities from being a player into being a manager?
It's a difficult question, Barry, because the game has changed. Whenever I played for 15 years with the county at senior level, and there was less, I suppose, emphasis on tactics, where you're getting everybody behind the ball. There was less emphasis on the short game, the hand passing game. Now, of course, it's all about getting people behind the ball, keeping the ball, short passes. Back in the day, which doesn't seem that long ago, we were very big into kicking the ball and moving it up the pitch, sometimes aimlessly, but it was all about winning possession and getting it forward as quickly as possible. Now it's a bit more tactical.
Which coach in your own career do you feel, as a manager or as a player, you have learned most from?
Without doubt, I would say at school, Sean O'Kane, who ironically was the principal of our school in St Pius X in Magherafelt, had a massive influence on all of us, and he led us to great success at school level. Honestly, Barry, over the last 2 years, have learned that I'm going to respect all managers, because now I know how difficult it is. And on Sunday, for example, Mickey Hart with Tyrone, is he there 18, 19 years? You know, and I look and I think, wow, how can you do this for that length of time and remain sane and sensible?
What school then were you at?
Well, as I say, I was at St Pius X Secondary. It's now college, Magherafelt. Great school. We had great success at underage level in Derry and Ulster, and we won actually 4 vocational All-Irelands, 2 at under 16 and 2 at under 19. So it was a fantastic experience.
Probably the most tricky one. Who is the player you have played? Who is the best player you have played with, against, and coached?
Wow, that is an incredible question. I think it very much depends on how you actually look at players. I mean, I honestly think that every player, and I'm not just saying this, has different qualities. The one thing that I have found about managing Derry, for example, is I've got to know people rather than looking at them over the wire, and I've learned that they have all fantastic personal qualities, not just as footballers but as people, which I think is very, very important. I think it would be wrong to single out any particular player, because they all train equally as hard. They all have the same aspirations or things they want to aspire to. So I honestly think, because of the commitment and because of the dedication, I think I really do admire all players now that make that commitment.
What is the greatest honour in your own career?
Well, you'd have to say one in All-Ireland in '93 was a pinnacle, but again, managing Derry, whether we're successful or unsuccessful, I still think is a great honour as well. I think winning is obviously massive, whether it's at underage, whether it's at senior county or senior club level. So I have been blessed that I've been on the right end of some results, but at county management level, I'd love a result on Sunday. That would be a big day.
How did you feel about whenever Tyrone won their All-Ireland, both their first All-Ireland and then their second All-Ireland, because of the fact of you having coached some of the players yourself, and then the other way, which is the Tyrone Derry and all of that?
Yeah, you know this, Barry, jealous at first, because if you are a sports person and you're in a competitive environment, you never want to see anybody do better than you, and that's just human nature. So a wee bit of jealousy, but you know this, that very much dissolved into admiration. And you know, if everybody could win an All-Ireland just to feel what it was like as a player, and their supporters feel the emotion of it, I think it would be awesome. But that's never going to happen. So I actually admire Tyrone for what they did in their first and second, obviously. And you know, you learn to be big enough, even though you're competitive against these people. I think you have to respect achievement.
Then the thing then goes to should the fans then be allowed then or not allowed to run onto the pitch? People now are talking about that as an issue. What do you think? What do you think of that?
I think they should be allowed to celebrate. The problem, Barry, is that everywhere you're going to get a few people that would take advantage and maybe get involved with an opposing player. The other thing, of course, is insurance, and this is the big reason for it. But I think it's great the more you can bring players and supporters together, because I mean, players really appreciate support, and sometimes you don't get an opportunity to thank them. So, you know, I think any time it takes away from it a wee bit if you're not celebrating with the supporters. But insurance, plus you might always find somebody who's going to maybe do something silly, whether verbally or physically, against somebody in an opposite team. So I think you have to guard against that as well.
Okay. I would like to thank you then for this interview, and
it's been my pleasure, Barry. Always great to see people back, and thank you.
Is that a watch or is that?
Now wait a minute. You're supposed to say, and good luck against Tyrone on Sunday.
Good luck against Tyrone.
And you mean that?
Yeah, I do.
Wonderful.
Damien, that was brilliant.
Listen, thank you.
Thank you.